Alright, silence people. I'm about to cook for y'all on this one, so here it is. Polar bear versus a lion and tiger tag team. Who's walking away and who's getting packed up? Well, when it comes to apex carnivores, the conversation usually stops at two camps. The big cats that try to hunt animals like it's the Krabby Patty formula, and bears that decide that brute force solves all problems. So of course, this once again makes our human chaos-driven minds wonder. What if we take the largest land carnivore on Earth, the polar bear, which is a walking flea on sight notice wrapped in fur, and put it up against a lion and tiger duo? Ah yes, in today's video, we're setting aside the trash talk and making the two big cat rivals actually team up for once against a polar bear. Now to preface this, we all know a polar bear would straight up clap either one of these cats in a 1v1, no debate. But the real question here is, could the bear clutch this 2v1 and turn the cats into a highlight reel? Or could the lion and tiger duo take down the Avengers level threat that is the polar bear? Well, before y'all start glazing your favorite animal, this ain't about who looks cooler on a tattoo. We're talking about raw stats, weaponry, and fighting IQ to see who wins a good old-fashioned brawl. So let's break it down right now. Here's how we're setting up the rules. The fight takes place on an open field, so no real terrain advantages, just pure claw and claw action here, okay? And we're also gonna assume both the big cat duo and polar bear are angry and want to duke it out. No running away or anything like that, they are fighting. And by the way, the lion and tiger are gonna be teamed up like brothers whose objective it is to take down the bear. So no claiming that either one would turn like it's some secret anime villain, okay? So standing across our feline tag team is the Arctic eviction notice, the polar bear. And you know what? This thing is one of the few animals that has a literal flea on sight notice. So if you find yourself face to face with one in the wild, which I mean, if you actually do, it would beckon the question why you were even there in the first place. Well, you're better off running away than even fighting back because you'll be turned into a cautionary tale. And a flea on sight notice is one thing that is earned and not just granted freely. Polar bears have been seen straight up dragging beluga whales out of water like it's hauling groceries, and even go toe to toe with 3,000-pound walruses that could turn most predators into a kebab. Yeah, they want the beef. Oh, and guess what? It's been calculated that a polar bear sprinting full speed at 25 miles an hour and slamming into you has the same energy as a 50 caliber bullet hitting you, or a small car ramming into you at 20 miles an hour. All right, that's cool now, we get murked. So just how big is this bear? Well, the average polar bear weighs in around 1,000 pounds, but the biggest bear population with the dad bods, that being the Foxy Basin polar bears, weigh in at 1,300 pounds on average. Yeah, that's a half ton of muscle, fat, and North Pole bad intentions, let me tell you. And remember, it's not just about size, people. It's about how these bears are built. Polar bears are very broad and robust creatures. We're talking dense, loose fur, a thick layer of fat that's about 2 to 4 inches deep under the skin, and strong bones built like steel. In fact, their fur and fat combo is so ridiculous that handguns won't save you from one that decides you are its meal. Yeah, you'll need a bigger weapon, or I mean, there's this thing called not going to the Arctic, and the bear's loose fur, and I mean a lot looser than a big cat's, is good at bunching up with applied forces, which would cause grips to slip, and if an animal decides to bite it, all it would get is a mouthful of fuzz, disappointment, and an angry polar bear writing your autobiography ending. Oh, and speaking of animals that turn prey into abstract art, let's move on to the feline duo. The African lion is teaming up with its rival, the Siberian tiger. Now, how shall we tackle this? Well, both are actually very different in terms of body layout and techniques and how they fight/hunt. So first, the lion, aka the warrior of the savannah. Lions have been documented dragging buffalo carcasses and even straight up winning tug of wars against Nile crocodiles. Basically, lions come pre-installed with a physique of a bodybuilder who skipped on leg day. You see, lions have a very bulky upper body with a very developed and muscle-dense shoulder region. This essentially gives them this staggered bulldog-like appearance. And with their short, robust spine, lions actually have a very unique build among other cats. Their heightened shoulder allows them to be good at dragging, pinning, and grappling, which is something we'll get into later, don't worry. But we cannot forget that mane though. Now yes, even though it's been proven by studies that its primary purpose is actually for mating displays and to appear more domineering, its very close second use is for defense against animals who want to run fades with them. And that's cool and all. So just how large is the warrior of the savannah? Well, southern African lions are said to weigh between 412 to 423 pounds. Now those are some large cats, but let's let's check up on its teammate, the Siberian tiger, aka the striped assassin. This thing haunts the nightmares of its cold forest that reflects its judgment on your soul. They've been known to murk entire wolf packs and drag fully grown deer through waist-deep snow like it's shopping at the supermarket. But a thing to note is that they're actually built different than lions. If the lion is a brutish warrior, the tiger is an acrobatic assassin. Tigers have a more elongated, leaner physique, with them packing more muscle in their leg and forearms. And given their very long humerus bone compared to the rest of their limb, tigers are really good at leaping, have strong grip strength, and explosive speed. So the lion is more like the muscling in and mauling type, while the tiger favors more of a leap and scratch method. But okay, enough of that. They're on the same team. Let's not get carried away, okay? So just how large is a Siberian tiger? Well, here's where things get interesting. The Siberian tiger being classified as the largest big cat is actually false. Yeah, so a lot of misconceptions come from sites that claim these cats weigh up to 600 plus pounds. And if you listen carefully, it says up to, not that they average that weight. Using that terminology, I can say humans weigh up to 1,000 pounds. But would you say that's normal? No. So that term propagates a false sense of belief in the Siberian tiger's size. In actuality, various modern estimates put their average size range for a wild male to be around 353 to 420 pounds, with the mean weight, according to this research article that measured 44 Siberian tigers, showing to be around 383 pounds. But to give credit where it's due, people, their historical average was actually 475 pounds before, humans started to wreck the ecosystem and everything. So right now, we're looking at a team of a 423 pound lion and a 383 pound tiger whose combined weight is 806 pounds, going up against a 1,000 pound polar bear. So the cats surprisingly fall short in terms of size, but that's not the only thing that determines who would win in a fight. Now, although the polar bear would be more tanky given its huge fat/fur combo and mass advantage, both the lion and tiger are more muscle dense and are built like rocks with fur. And given it's a 2-on-1, perhaps fighting method and strategy plays an arguably more important role here. So how's a fight looking between these animals? Well, here's where things get juicy. Let's talk about the bear here for a moment. How does the polar bear throw paws? Well, polar bears are brutish, relentless creatures that love to just rush in, maul, and wrestle like it's auditioning for a Joe Rogan podcast highlight. In fact, their bear build supports a more square-like and robust hip area, which makes them way better at standing up and wrestling for longer periods of time than big cats. It also makes them more stable and just overall more balanced. And you know what else they're packing other than their insane wrestling skills? 1 foot wide paws the size of dinner plates that have really sharp claws meant for tearing through the hide of walruses. Oh, and their bite, by the way, is pure industrial strength, meant for crippling seals, and they're not too picky where it lands. You see, unlike cats, who aim primarily for the neck, polar bears just bite whatever's open. Arms, ribs, femurs. If it's unguarded, it's getting wrecked. Basically, these bears have the right tool set for the 2v1 clash. And just an added bonus in case its victim wasn't already saying its prayers, these bears love to use their body to pin and crush limbs when given the chance. Oh, and by the way, polar bears can throw paws for a long time and have solid endurance. But the problem is that their dad bod insulation turns them into walking saunas in a long fight. Basically, they're built to outlast the Arctic cold and not an MMA main event, so they can run the risk of overheating. And while their bear build is tanky and hard to break, it's also lumbering and clunky, so they would actually have a hard time getting out of compromising positions, unlike cats who can just slip out of bad spots like acrobatic escape artists. But that's if an animal can get past the wrath of the Arctic annihilator, which is insanely hard to do, let me tell ya. But if any carnivores could, the lion and tiger duo stands a pretty good shot. Now, we already went over how these big cats would be more agile than the bear, but they do also fight differently. Okay, so the lion loves to muscle in, stay grounded given their top heavy build, and like to wrestle as well. And when they strike, the lion's pack shoulder region allows it powerful swipes, with them hitting often one paw at a time, but putting a lot of force behind it. Oh, and also, I forgot to mention, lions are really unique where they target because they aim all over the body, specifically the rear leg region, and of course, the neck area. And when they do so, they like to reach, grab, and wrestle with their great shoulder power. But in a straight wrestling match against a polar bear, yeah, the lion is cooked. But remember, it's a 2v1, and the Siberian tiger is also part of the mix. Tigers tend to be more leapy when they fight, and they like to lunge at their opponents and hit them with both paws at a time. They also seem to be quicker and more abrupt with their movements, swatting and shredding very fast with their paws. Alright, so the lion would be more or less covering the grappling/mauling portion, while the tiger would default to more of the leaping/ripping apart the back area of the bear. Now, as for finishers, as per usual, usual for almost all cats, lions and tigers heavily rely on finishing fights via neck bites. That generally requires them to be physically dominating and winning the fight. Now, while bears, yes, they do go for neck bites, don't get me wrong, but their win con is more rangy per se. They love to relentlessly maul at their opponents until it gets tired, or until they cause enough blood loss to where they can actually win, and they don't discriminate where they attack. Polar bears also tend to fight more continuously and last a bit longer than big cats. Now, in comparison, lions and tigers tend to fight more sporadically and in short bursts, basically because their body is built for quick explosive movements. So yes, the cats individually would in theory tire out quicker before the bear, but even though the bear would have better endurance in a straight up 1v1 scenario, one thing you gotta take note of is that the feline duo would be attacking at the same time, which could allow for small rests while the bear is mauling one of them. And this actually leads on to the biggest problem for the bear here, which is the polar bear having to deal with the pincer movement, aka the cats attacking both sides at the same time, and that would be pretty hard to beat. But if any carnivore could do it, it would be the polar bear, the bear that is built to be a half-ton nightmare, and the one that has the weapons to send any human to the afterlife in an instant. But is that enough to stop the big cat duo? Could the bear clutch the 2v1? Well, people, I think it's about time we determine a verdict. Alright, we have our stats. So who wins in a fight between a polar bear and a lion/Siberian tiger duo? Well, people, actually listen to what I have to say before clicking off or sending a hate-filled comment my way, okay? Now, if we're assuming the averages on both ends here, I think the polar bear would win with extreme difficulty. I'm talking about it would be barely walking away like you after an intense leg day. I see this as kind of like two Mighty Mouses versus a prime Brock Lesnar. But for the Foxy Basin polar bear population that averages 1,300 pounds, I see the bear taking the W with medium difficulty. Listen, people, the bear simply just has a huge weight advantage. Even if we use the historical weight of the Siberian tiger, which is 475 pounds, and we take into account a fully grown male lion at 423 pounds, the cat duo is still getting outweighed by the bear by around 100 pounds. Now, to give the cats their credit, their combined agility would be very hard for the polar bear to pin down one at a time, especially thinking about how the other free cat would be attacking the back. But then again, I have a hard time seeing a lion or tiger physically controlling or pinning down the bear to go for that last little neck bite. I feel like the bear has enough armor to absorb a lot of the cat's attacks, especially concerning their loose fur that would make the cat's grips and bites slip. The bear is simply built for mauling continuously and fighting for long periods of time, and his vastly superior hip region for stability and balance when grappling and standing up would prove to be very beneficial, especially when considering that cats kinda want to latch onto their opponents, while the bear would be moving around wildly, mauling whatever's in front of it. And sure, lions and tigers might not coordinate perfectly like a lion duo would, but they'd still team up enough to make the bear's life miserable. But in the end, the polar bear takes the W. So yeah, tell me what you think in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video, and feel free to check out the rest of my content.